in my industry, so trading, I'm now to the point where we have an autonomous hedge fund. So that means every decision is made by technology. So then when I think, well, what's going to come next? What's going to come next is I look at that almost like a digital factory. You got to figure out a persistent edge, something that doesn't change. In business, so many things are always changing, and that can't be the focus of your business. But once you figure out what's going to happen in your industry over the next 3 to 5 years, and you know it's really going to happen, you realize you don't have to create it. It's going to happen. But if that's going to happen, it's almost like you have a roadmap to the future.
Hey Masters, welcome to Path to Mastery. And today we are with Mr. Howard Getson. What's going on, Howard?
Yeah,
it's been a long day, dude. I'm struggling to say Howard now. This is
well, it's not even Monday, so
it's Tuesday.
Yeah, good to see you here virtually. I guess last time we met was live in person in Phoenix. Both of us actually braved airplanes and live people, but it was nice seeing you in person.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It was nice to meet you in person, and I learned a lot from you. And yeah, and you own a company called Capital Logics, which deals with artificial intelligence.
Yeah, a good substitute for lack of the real thing. At least that's what my wives tell me.
Did you say
only one now?
Okay.
But
got it. Okay,
I've been trained by multiple women.
There you go. All right, cool. Well, I'm looking forward to today's conversation because, man, there's so many things going on. I was telling you before we started recording about a theory. They were talking about, should we send a human to meet like aliens? If there were aliens, would we send a human, or would it make more sense to send a robot?
Oh no, not robot, AI.
AI. Well, yeah, robot built with AI, right? Is that how it works?
The answer is it would certainly be a lot safer to send an AI, not only because AI and machine learning might be better at figuring out how to communicate, but also it's harder to kill.
Well, that was a point that was brought up. Like if it doesn't come back, then it's not going to be as bad.
Actually, a lot of really smart people I know thinking about alien technology say that if we were to encounter something, it would most likely be an AI, because what else could withstand the time? You're more than likely to encounter a probe, and it would be a remote intelligence or a sensor, a data gathering tool rather than the actual thing that created it.
Yeah, that's so true. And then to that point, you said, when I said robot, you said no, AI. Why do you make that distinction? Because I think they were referring to it as a robot.
Is a machine that is controlled to do things, but the AI is the intelligence, the thinking part. And so the point of communicating with a robot, with an alien, would be to communicate and to be able to figure out their language. And a robot just does stuff. You can program it to like make a car faster or lift a human out of bed. But the AI is the part that is intelligent and response, dynamic and adaptive.
But wouldn't the robot kind of represent the human being, and then the AI would be the brain, or?
Yeah, except, I've got a little robot in the corner there, and it was the first robot I bought for my kids. And basically it's got a remote control and it can bring them a video game. And when I talk, it sounds like a robot. But it's intelligent for a toy, but it's not really intelligent. Meanwhile, the actual AI, I guess if you had a physical embodiment of a robot and you were streaming the AI to it live, then yeah, it would be great. So that you would anthropomorphize, make it look more human. But if it was really a robot, would you want them? I don't know. I'm glad that that's way above my pay grade. What's interesting is that I run a hedge fund that is 100% controlled by autonomous AI. So, even though we've got, a little less than 50 people here, but 20 plus kind of PhD quant rocket scientists, none of them actually operate the hedge fund. It's the AI that decides what to buy, what to sell, how to get in, how to get out, how much risk to take, what allocation strategies they're going to use. And it's amazing to kind of think of from 20 years ago, what we're doing now seems like science fiction, but probably 18 months from now, what I do now is going to be embarrassing. And it's kind of like digital marketing, where if 6 months from now, you're not embarrassed by the videos you put up, you're not improving fast enough. We're at a tipping point where AI is going to change the planet, the way we live, the way we work, our businesses, the way you find customers, the way you find properties, the way you do deals. But it's really kind of like electricity or the internet. It's one of those things that everybody knows is going to be big, but you can't anticipate the changes. I mean, I still remember when the internet first took off in the mid 90s. I was still taking my kids to CompUSA every weekend. Who would have thought that the internet getting bigger would cause a store like CompUSA to shut? Right? I mean, it's counterintuitive. Or back then, that it would impact TV, cable, movies, automobiles. Right now, automobiles are updated over the internet. Well, AI is going to terraform everything.
Interesting. Yeah, I agree. I'm going to read your bio, and then I want to jump into I want to talk a little bit about the real estate space, if that's okay.
What's real estate?
It's just AI, man. It's all right. So for centuries, fortune tellers have scammed and fooled the uneducated, deceiving them into believing they could see the future. Of course, we know that's not true. Human beings can't reliably predict the future, yet you can predict what kind of technology will be needed in the future. You can do this by understanding human nature and what human nature will want from the technology of the future. That's an important point that we need to be talking about. That's exactly what Henry Ford, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk did. It's what enabled them to create products and services for the future. Howard Getson has been the CEO of an AI company since way back 1991. Wow. I can't imagine what you guys were talking about in 1991 with this.
Oh, you probably had hair back then.
I may have. I actually may have. Howard has seen firsthand how better decisions can be made by using artificial intelligence. As a matter of fact, that's exactly what he's done with his AI technology platform and the hedge fund that he runs on that platform. As long as time technology entrepreneur, Howard believes that two important principles of growing your company and understanding the future of making invisible visible and the intangible tangible.
Yeah.
Howard, thanks for being here, my friend.
Yeah. You know, what you were really talking about there is we live in a time of exponential thinking and exponential technologies. And one of the biggest mistakes that people make is that they assume that the game that they've been playing till now is going to continue. Part of it is they assume the playing field is even going to stay the same, but it's changing dramatically. Real estate is in many respects a very low tech business, right? Except it's not, because you have some people who are using massive databases to look at more opportunities and more data, almost like Moneyball in baseball, where they're using metrics to figure out how do you compare things that you wouldn't normally compare, so I can tell which one's better. And if somebody is using it to figure out how to get a better return on investment, that's cool. But what if somebody's doing it to find underserved markets that are going to get hot? Or what if somebody's using it to find where the right buyers are for a certain kind of property? This is what I meant by you can't really anticipate how AI is going to change your business. For me in a hedge fund, the place where I would have thought it was most likely going to be useful was that I would have automated trading systems that tried to predict the markets. But it turns out markets are fundamentally random, at least to somebody like me in the short term, because you can't control a Trump tweet or a Kim Jong-un nuclear threat or a global pandemic, or recently we had that snowpocalypse in Texas. So many things like that are fundamentally random that why spend even $1 trying to predict something random? Instead, a secret to business is if you don't know what your edge is, you don't have one. You got to figure out a persistent edge, something that doesn't change. In business, so many things are always changing, and that can't be the focus of your business. So in a hedge fund, that means I can't focus on the markets because the markets always change. And I can't focus on the bot or the trading system because that's always going to change. If I were in real estate, it means it's not really about the properties. Now, I know that sounds crazy, but you're always going to have a new property. And it can't even be about the buyer because you're always going to have a new buyer. What you have to figure out is what's filling your cup or what's draining it. And that might mean which segment is likely to outperform or what system to use to make sure you generate better returns. I'll use a hedge fund metaphor for a minute. Any individual trade that I make is random. I'll have you think about that a different way. If a Nobel laureate, right, somebody that was known for their genius, creating a trading system, and they decided they were going to buy Apple computer because that was the result of their equation. And at the same time, my cleaning lady decided she was going to buy Apple because her kid finally convinced them to buy AirPod Pros. And she's like, if they can take money from me, they can take it from anybody. I'm buying a share of that stock. It doesn't matter why somebody bought. The moment they buy, whether it goes up or down, is random. But over 10,000 trades, your ability to make and keep money is not random. It's about the system. So even though an individual trade might be random, over time, how you manage risk, how you deploy capital, what you focus on, what you ignore, those things are not random. And that's what ultimately relates to the making and the keeping of money. And so in real estate, it's not about an individual deal or property. It's about the to-do list and the not to-do list, the values, the recipes for success, where you spend your time, where you spend your focus, where you spend your energy. And those are all things that AI can help filter.
So to that, I want to back up in the space. I'd love to get your thoughts on this. If you look at the travel industry, go back 25 years, I booked a trip to go to Bahamas. I'd have to go downtown Worcester, go to the travel agency's office, sit down with the lady. She goes on her computer or whatever she had, booked the flight, right? Sent me the vouchers in the mail. That was how you did it.
Oh, or
right?
Frankly, I grew up in Framingham, just down the road from Worcester. And if I wanted to drive to Atlantic City, I would go to the AAA office and I would tell them, and they would build a map for me page by page. It was called a triptych, and it would take me 30, 45 minutes there so that I had the equivalent of now just going to Siri or Google and saying directions and it's instantaneous. Or then go back to travel and say, when you went to the airport, there were all these check-in counters and you needed to talk to humans at every step along the way. And now you hate waiting in line. You'd much rather be able to do it on your phone or on a kiosk. It's crazy how everything's changed. Now even TSA, they don't let me scan my boarding pass. They just they look at the driver's license. It tells them which flight I'm on, that I'm TSA pre-check, and they wave you through because they don't want to talk to me.
So here's an example. This dot card here. All I have to do is tap someone's phone, and all of my information is there now. All my social media links, all my contact information that I choose to share is on. That's it. It's tapped. Don't even have to turn the camera on anymore. So
do you have like different ones for different identities? So if it's somebody,
that's a good idea.
So
yeah, one for real estate. Well, I'm sorry. What were we going to say?
It's like on an airplane when you don't want to talk to somebody. They say, "What do?" You say, "I sell men's shoes," and then they put their headphones on and leave you alone.
Yeah. Amen. So back to I want to go back to the real estate or the travel metaphor. So now look at real estate through that lens. Most real estate agents, the majority, is what they do is they take buyers out and they open doors. Right? I mean, that I'm just telling you, I've been doing real estate for 18 years. So how does this technology impact? I mean, it's going to impact the industry in a massive way. And it's already starting to. I think most of the real estate agents, and I am a real estate agent. I've been a real estate agent 18 years. I have a broker's license. I've been a broker for 10 years. But I'm like, okay, I think one of the things you said, it's in your bio, is let me find that again. You can't predict the future. You can predict what kind of technology will be needed in the future.
So let me walk you through that model really quickly, and then we'll use it to look at real estate. Since the beginning of time, humans have been confronted with disruptive new technologies. In the beginning, it was stuff like fire and the wheel. But, recently, electricity, the internet, AI, they're all pretty disruptive technologies. But we as humans haven't changed in millennia. If you looked at the Old Testament and you look at the sins that people created then, they're almost the same as the ones we do now. Obviously, there's a whole lot new technology. The world's a lot different, but apparently our natures are still fundamentally the same. So this is true in business and technology as well. If you focus on human nature, it's way easier to predict the future than if you try to predict the specific technology. So I created a little framework about how thoughts become things. And, I basically say the best way to predict the future is to invent it. But easier than that is to just think about what capabilities people are inevitably going to want in your industry space. And I'll, again, walk you through that real quickly. But once you figure out what's going to happen in your industry over the next 3 to 5 years, and it's really going to happen, you realize you don't have to create it. It's going to happen. But if that's going to happen, it's almost like you have a roadmap to the future. And what you want to do is take advantage of Mother Nature rather than fight it. So it goes like this. Each one of these is a massive, bigger scale, but it starts with a capability. The capability is some strategic and unique new thing that helps you do what you already do, but better. And if it doesn't help you do that, you say, so what, who cares, right? There's like a little lizard portion of your brain that says, if it doesn't help me survive, I'm going to ignore it. Human nature. But if something is strategic and unique, and it really is going to help you be more efficient, more effective, or more certain, so help you do more in less time with less effort or with a higher probability of winning, then it's like, oh, cool. And instead of that capability satisfying the need, it actually makes you hungry for more. As soon as you go, that's really cool, then you say, but could it do this? Or how about that? Right? So stage 2 is where you combine that new capability, which I look at kind of like a Lego. And you say, but what if I take this Lego and that Lego? And ultimately, it's a prototype. And I look at that as kind of the 20% that gets 80% of the benefit. So instead of the 80-20 rule, this is the 20-80 rule. It's where there's low hanging fruit and you go, oh, this is wicked cool. This is going to be great. Now, if we only do this, it could be a product. And now you're thinking about a product, a service, or an offering. How am I going to expand it bigger? When we talked about the capability, that's about you. When you talk about a prototype, it's you and people you know doing something you know. But a product is getting people you don't know to do something you know. And then the even bigger one is when it becomes a platform. And that's when people you don't know use it to do stuff you never anticipated, right? So if you remember an old piece of software called ACT, way back in the old days, it was a real estate agent's best friend. And ACT stood for activities, contacts, and time. But it was a contact manager. And then over time, they created a product called React, and it was for real estate. And it had a lot more customization where the fields related to properties and deals, and it became easier and easier. But over time, that technology became a customer relationship management platform. So it was sales, marketing, customer service. Then later it became a prospecting tool. And you realize that nobody ever thinks about contact management as a product anymore. It's part of an operating system. It's part of, Salesforce. It's part of whatever you do. But the thing that used to be a product became a platform. And then that platform spawned all bunches of new products. So the trick is, in my industry, so trading, I'm now to the point where we have an autonomous hedge fund. So that means every decision is made by technology. So then when I think, well, what's going to come next? What's going to come next is I look at that almost like a digital factory. And I can create other funds, but I could create a metals fund, a currency fund, a commodity fund, an emerging market fund, a crypto fund. And then instead of me trying to sell that, what if I make that available to people that are good at raising money from people, and it becomes a platform that they build their business on? Then I focus on making the platform better, but they focus on the products and the joint ventures. And so you're going to see the same thing in real estate, where if you think about a new capability, one new capability might be better augmented reality or virtual reality tours of properties. So you spend time with a prospect, walking them through a wizard to figure out what they're looking for. And then you save a whole bunch of time, instead of by opening doors, by showing them a number of things where they can almost swipe right or swipe left to say thumbs up or thumbs down. And you have a 15 to 30 minute virtual session that does what used to be done in 2 or 3 days. And then you've got a targeted list of what they really like and what they don't like, along with their credit score, their existing financing, and then a geographic boundary, a geofence that says, I want to see all the open properties that meet these criteria here. If you don't find enough, you start to gradually expand that geofence in bigger locations. And then you end up spending far less time actually visiting a real site with somebody that's not a real buyer. And so in a sense, this is making you more efficient, more effective, and more certain. That's just an example I came up with without thinking. We didn't talk about this before the podcast. That's an example. Another might be, in a hedge fund, a lot of times a financial advisor is trying to right size the level of risk that a client is willing to take. And you can think of it almost as like a speed limit. And the thing is most people are inherently greedy when they're talking and they say they want this kind of return and they're focused on stuff like that. But the reality is their speed limit is usually lower than their greed limit. And so in a sense, it's important not only to get one point of information, but to get many, so that you actually offer them not only what they ask for, but things that are good for them. And it's not going to help you. Well, maybe it would, but it's not really going to help you to show somebody a product that they can't buy. And maybe they overextend and try to buy it anyway. But really, I think if your reputation is you help people find the home of their dreams or the property of their dreams with less time, less effort, and it's going to help them refer you more and better businesses. And ultimately, you're going to end up spending a lot of time making the platform that let you do that better.
Yeah.
So the platform that lets you do it is a tool. Your unique ability might be relationship, or it might be asking the right questions so that you can quickly hone in to the thing that they like. You might even be a mediator between a husband and a wife or business partners who have fundamentally conflicting desires, but by mediating that quickly digitally, so you're showing them this versus that, which one do you like better? This versus that, which do you like better?
Wouldn't artificial intelligence be able to do that? Like based on all the data points and all that stuff and everything they're doing on social media? I mean, wouldn't it come up with like almost like, I guess, I don't know, like a compromise, I guess, that would, or something that would work for both? Would it be able to do that a bit more?
Don't we do that when we try to find a place to eat with your wife? You're like, hey, do you want to go out tonight? Yeah. What are you thinking? How about Chinese? No, I don't want Chinese. Well, what do you want? Mexican? I don't want Mexican. And then you end up saying, all right, well, how about you got to, that's true. But in real estate, if I were a broker, I would hate driving 15, 20 minutes to get to a property, trying to make sure that the drive up appeal is right, getting them in the right mental state. So when they walk in, you want them to go, wow. And then all of a sudden, you know, you 2 steps in, the wife says, I hate this.
Well, so one of the challenges that's happening in the industry now is the fact that there's so much information online. So most consumers, both buyers, sellers, can access a lot of information even before they get to the real estate agent. And now you have companies like Redfin and others that are saying, hey, don't worry about using a listing agent anymore. Just give us 1%. We'll get your house on the market. We'll get it marketed. We'll get it in front of people and we'll pay buyers agents. Right. So that is something that is.
You remember how disruptive Remax was when they first started? I mean, people thought that was crazy.
That was probably before my time. No, I don't think this is crazy at all. I think it's the way of the future, to be honest with you. I think what's happening now, I was thinking about that 10 years ago, to be honest with you. I'm just disappointed that I didn't come up with with Redfin or something like that before they did, you know. But listen, the reality is there's always going to be a need, just like the travel agents. If you go back to the metaphor I was sharing, there are still travel agents. There just aren't as many of them.
Well, what there are specialty agents who focus on, you know, luxury safaris or cruises. It's really hard to be a generic travel agent because the cost of doing that online is zero. You've got to find a niche. Now, there are many niches in real estate. One would be lead generation. Another would be finding potential deals or deal flow. Another is finding a way to compare properties in meaningful ways so that different people can say, this is the one I'd prefer. And maybe there are templates that say, if I'm selling to a dual income, multiple child household, I want to make sure I'm in the right school district. And I want to make sure that we have this many childcare facilities and doggy daycares and, you know, Chuck E. Cheese's. But if I were a different kind of real estate fund, I might be looking for secondary tier markets where you've got a stable labor force and a growing middle class. And but the bottom line is it's really easy to look at this almost like fishing. If I want to have a good day fishing, I could fly to Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and fly fish, but I'm only going to catch a couple fish a day. If fishing becomes my business, then, you probably want a boat with a fish finder and many different types of bait and many different types of reels. And some we're going to find near the coral reef and some is deep sea. And the bottom line is you've got a net if you're really into commercial fishing, but you have to decide what's your specialty. Because if you're just somebody who wants to fish for fun, it's easier to find a can of beer and a rod rather than all the other crap. But as a professional in your space, you want to have the right tool for the right job and the right mindset so that the right people find you. And if you think about, there's a strategic coach term, focus day activity. It's the stuff that really makes money. And then free day is when you do nothing. And buffer day is the stuff you do that lets you have fully focused focus days or fully free days. Technology can do a whole bunch of the buffer day activities. And you want the focus day activity to be your unique ability, not the technology's. You want the technology to support you doing what you're best at. You don't want the technology to be the star. You actually want your client to be the star. You're the guide, and the technology is the tool that you as a guide are using to help your client be the hero.
Yeah. It reminds me, I have two questions for you. But I want to ask you this first. What you just said reminds me of, it brought me back to something. I'd given a 10-minute presentation at the Genius Network. And at the end, somebody asked me a question. And after everything I said, the question was, well, how do you know who to call? And that was probably the most brilliant question which I didn't even really contemplate. Like, I can tell you how to call and how to be effective on the call.
Call center business.
Then there you go. So that was an aha moment for me. And yes, I can tell you who to call based on low hanging fruit, like they're expired, they're FISBO, but there's other data points in artificial intelligence that can really tell us at a much deeper level who to call. And I think that was what they were alluding to.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I was alluding to as well by saying, don't focus on the things that change, which are the individuals that you call. Focus on the thing that doesn't change, the recipe or the framework, the process that finds the right people. If you get that right, then the people themselves are just raw material, but you've got a process that is good enough and gets better. And then you create variations on a theme for different niches.
The process that finds the right people. And that is the platform. Is that what you're referring to?
Think of it as a recipe, right? In a recipe, you've got the ingredients, but you have to do it in the right order and the right intensity. If you're going to add cumin, it's a dash, not a tablespoon. And so the secret to success is, good things happen while you're in motion. You got to try stuff. But on the other hand, you're doomed to repeat history if you don't learn from it. So you want to get increasingly intelligent that says, I'm going to do this first, and then this is what comes next. When I do AI, it's not like we press an easy button. We say, I'm going to AI this thing, because that doesn't work. What we do is we say, all right, how can I break the process, the thing we're trying to do, into a beginning, a middle, and an end? Like there has to be something that's the first step. And if I said to you, if I were trying to find the right prospect, whatever you said the first step was would be wrong, because later you'd come back and say, nah, in order to do that, I do that. But you start by saying, all right, so this is the beginning, the middle, and the end. So those are functional components. What we're doing is functional component mapping. Then maybe you find out there's 5 main components to what you do. And I say, what order are they in? And you say, well, this is the order. Well, later we may find out that what you thought was number 4 is actually better if it's step 2, right? Because the order and the intensity change things. But within each step, let's say one step is market identification, and so you're trying to define an avatar. Maybe that's step 1. There's probably 5, 7 different ways we could do that. And I'm just going to use terms for investment, but I could solve this based on math, arithmetically, statistically, based on game theory, behavioral economics, utility function. There's lots of different ways. And somebody that's an expert at one of those says, ooh, my way is best. But what if AI could solve it 5 different ways? And then you had an AI one level above it that says, but which one actually accomplished what we wanted the best way? This is almost like the concept of mindfulness that they teach in meditation, where you can look at a situation from the perspective of all perspectives. It's almost like saying, what role should I play to get the best outcome? And as you look at this, what you'll find is there's no one right answer. Whatever was the right answer now is going to change because the practical realities of time, technology, and markets change. And so you don't want to have a fixed recipe. You want to have a process that lets you discover what's right now.
Well, Howard, I know we had planned to go 30 minutes. We've gone over, so I've got a few more questions, if that's okay. So number one is, I always ask everybody to send me a question, so I want to make sure I got to the question you sent me. But you said something earlier that anytime I'm doing a podcast, and if something really creates curiosity, I have to ask the question. So I was always taught
I am not a robot.
Okay, good. Awesome. Good to know. That was definitely one of them. The other one was going to be the 80-20 rule. So yeah. I've been around the concept of the 80-20 rule for a lot of years. I taught it at Keller Williams. You said the 20-80 rule. I have no idea what that means. Can you explain that?
Okay, ask me that last part one more time because I want to make sure I get what you want.
So I understand the 80-20 rule, but you had mentioned the 20-80 rule.
Yes. Okay.
That's what I want to understand.
So imagine a standard curve, kind of, a bell-shaped curve. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, sure, of course. Yep.
Okay. So in the 80-20 rule, you're talking about the point of diminishing returns. That means where doing more actually gets you less. That's the back part. So if you think about the curve, it's you've gone up the hill and you're about to start going down the hill. It's called the Pareto optimum because that's the guy who invented it.
Yep.
It's the point of diminishing returns. It's where you're going to more of the same is actually going to be a waste of your time. Okay. The 20-80 rules, the beginning of the curve that says, I'm now at the point where I've done 20% of the effort, but I'm already in the fat part of the curve. And now more effort is going to get me less benefit. I'm not at the point of diminishing returns, but that first part is easy, juicy. And so when you're prototyping something, this is a way to say, is it cleansing or clogging? Is it giving me what I want or not? It's a weighing and measuring tool that says, am I willing to spend more time, energy, and resources? But it's a quick no next.
That's awesome.
And so if it doesn't do it, it lets you get to next, because in AI, it's about failing faster. You want to try more experiments to get to next rather than to focus on perfection. Perfection is the enemy of operation.
It's the dip kind of. You familiar with Seth Godin's book, The Dip? No,
but I remember the concept.
It's when you know when to stop, and that's a very difficult thing to know. So I want to respect your time. A question you said, does this apply to people who don't work in technology? Everything we're talking about, we've been talking about hedge funds, investing, real estate. Does it apply to everybody? Like this what we're talking about today?
Yeah, of course, because it's like saying, did electricity affect railroads when they weren't run on electricity originally? And the answer is it's inevitable. As an entrepreneur, I kind of simplified my life into saying, I take things that were impossible and find ways to make them possible. I take things that are possible and I make them likely. I take things that were likely and make them inevitable. But you take things that are inevitable and you actually make them happen and do them. It's always about getting to next. And what you have to realize is there are some things that are inevitable. If you're listening to the podcast, then I promise for the next 25 years, amplified intelligence is going to impact your life. There are ways that you'll be able to make better decisions, take smarter actions, and improve performance by using some of these exponential mindsets and exponential technologies to give you an advantage. If you choose to ignore it, even though you've ignored it, your competitors aren't going to continue to ignore it. And standing still is moving backwards at this point. So there's a law of the farm, kind of winter, spring, summer, and fall. But the law of the farm is you have to plant corn before it grows, before you can harvest it. If you think about winter, spring, summer, and fall, it's springtime for AI, meaning you know that there's a ton of new sprouts and this thing is going to take off. It's inevitable, but it's not springtime for you if you don't start to plant some seeds and let them grow. And so you don't have to automate your business. You don't have to have autonomous AI, but you should be thinking about, how do I use some of these technologies to contact more people? How do I use it to automatically filter through some of the stuff that I used to do by hand? How do we create autoresponders so I'm dripping content and staying in contact with people so that when they're really ready, they will pick up the phone and call me? How do you make it easier for them to schedule time using an automated scheduler? It's all these teeny little things. Those edges compound. And ultimately, if you continue to improve and your competitors don't, they're no longer your competitors. So I've got a way for people to sign up for my newsletter. I don't sell anything, but it's a great way to stay up on technology and news about markets, crypto, the world. If they simply type the word genius to 972-992-1100. Again, it's the word genius to 972-992-1100. We'll send them a worksheet about how thoughts become things and how capabilities become prototypes, become products, become platforms. But you'll also get a weekly list of the articles and links that I think are really relevant to you and your space. I hope that's helpful.
Super helpful, man. I check out your newsletter every day. So appreciate you, sir. Yeah, this was awesome. I can't wait to go back and listen to it again, to be honest with you, so I can really get some nuggets. Final thought. What do you want people listening now? Like, wrap it up. What do you want people to take from this? Like, if they're going to walk away with one thing, what would be your final thought?
Good things happen when you're in motion. And so you got to do something here. You've spent time listening to this. I'm sure you've thought about how technology is going to help you. Think about how technology is going to impact your industry. If you understand what's happening in your industry, you don't have to build it. You just have to be able to take advantage of it. Go back to the gold rush in California, 1849. Some people went out there to be speculators. They wanted to pan for gold and hope they struck it rich. But a lot of other people made money selling picks and shovels to the miners or booze and places to stay. If you understand what's happening, then figure out how you can leverage your unique ability by being in the right place at the right time, so you're taking advantage of Mother Nature rather than fighting it. Again, you don't have to invent the technology. You just have to figure out what people are going to want, because people's desires are what's going to call the money, and the money is going to create the innovation. But it's really easy to think about what people are going to want or require in your space over the next 5 years. And the goal is to have a product, a service, or an offering that keeps you just a teeny bit ahead of the other people. You don't have to be far ahead, just a little ahead's enough.
Awesome. Yeah, love it. Thank you. Appreciate you, sir.
All right, take care, man. This was fun.